Hi, thanks for tuning in again to Sin's Workshop. I know I was on a little hiatus there, but with work and everything, I do work at a movie theater during my day job, and it was a little crazy there with the coronavirus, so I haven't had a lot of time to sit down and record. But I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about We Unleash the Merciless Storm by Tehlor Kay Mejia, which is the sequel to We Set the World on Fire, or We Set the Dark on Fire, sorry. I always think of this song. Anyway, I thought this was a really good sequel because instead of continuing Danny's journey, which, really has come to a close, the novel decides to follow Carmen, which, spoiler alert, if you haven't read the first book, Carmen is part of La Voz, and she is not just a member of La Voz, but she is their biggest spy. She's their best spy. She's been doing this since she was a child. She was integrated into high society for the purpose of continuing her spy duties. So I thought it was very interesting to take this story and focus more on La Voz and the revolution, especially after, the botched rescue. Carmen wants to figure out what the heck is going on because this is not the rebellion that she once knew. They're making a lot of mistakes. They're making a lot of dangerous mistakes, reckless mistakes, and it's just, it's a more in-depth view of the rebellion and how they're so different from the high society world and what they're fighting for. They're fighting for equality, and I think that's a very powerful message that Mejia is trying to bring, because in today's day and world, there's still so much inequality, there's still so much class status, and there's a lot of inequality when it comes to gender, when it comes to your race and ethnicity, that does border on hate. And for some of these characters in this novel, they hate the impoverished just because they're impoverished. They hate everyone on the other side of the wall because they are, they're just hateful. And in light of current circumstances with the coronavirus, hate is just not okay. This is a time in our world where we should be unifying, but we're not. We're becoming more strained. We're becoming more divisive and torn apart by fear and hatred. And I think that's one of the messages that Mejia is trying to send, that we shouldn't let fear divide us. We shouldn't let hatred divide us. We should come to a point of understanding and acceptance with one another. And that's really what this novel is about, because that's what La Voz is trying so hard to do. They're trying so hard to fight for equality. It's also very impressive that as a Latina, I strongly connected to this novel. My family's Mexican. They're from Jalisco and Zacatecas. And I've heard those stories about, how hard it is to live there in Mexico. And I took a bilingual class in college, not speech writing, one of those gen eds, but I took a bilingual, and I heard I heard stories from my other classmates who were pretty much from everywhere in South America, Brazil, Colombia. I mean, it's sometimes very hard to live down there. And all anyone wants to do when they come to America is just get a better life. And I think people forget this country was built off the backs of immigrants. There's so many structures in New York, in Massachusetts, everywhere where immigrants came from all around the world to come here and seek a better life. And, you know, they didn't always get here legally. That's kind of newish if you think about it in context. But everyone is an immigrant. You know, the only natives to America are literally the Native Americans. Everyone else is an immigrant. We all come from immigrants. And the fact that nowadays there's so much hatred against immigrants, it really does burden my soul. And for Mejia to touch upon that with her story and her storytelling and her writing, it does make a powerful impact. It makes you think. It's worth thinking about. It's worth discussing. It's worth sitting down and saying, hey, you know, these people are coming to get a better life. What can we do to help them? You know, obviously not everyone can fit in the United States of America, and no, we cannot go around changing other world's cultures. But what we can do is just find a way to come together as a world, you know, to help refugees, to help immigrants, because, you know, some of the people that we deport, you know, they're probably going to get killed when they return home, and I don't think anyone really thinks about that. You know, they escaped. Some of them really did escape death, for no other reason than just being different. And I think we have to think about that as a culture, worldwide. You know, it's not just the U.S., but I live in the U.S. and I see so much hatred, not just against immigrants, but against, you know, if you're African American, if you're Latino, if you're Asian, because of the coronavirus. I mean, come on. You can't. It's just, it saddens me, and there's no place for it. You know, we're in the year 2020. We should be trying to find a way to come together and not be torn apart. And that's what this story is about: coming together, bringing unity to people. And through the characterization, through the storytelling, through Carmen's perspective, we see the inequality. You know, we see what it means to live beyond the wall, and we see how dangerous that wall is, because that wall, it just does nothing but isolate. Walls isolate. And isolation's not what we should really be doing. I mean, we should be seeking ways to communicate with other countries and come to compromises. And that's what this novel is about. You know, at the end of it, you know, the revolution, they don't necessarily win, but they don't lose either. What they seek is a compromise. They seek equality. They seek peace. And they're fighting for it. And for Carmen, you know, it's a struggle, because this is what she's always wanted, and somehow while she's been gone, they lost their way. So it's up to her to bring it back. And you feel Mejia's passion in the writing. You feel her urgency to inspire the reader to think. And it does work, and it does make the reader think. It's a very strong story, and there are some powerful scenes in there, especially when Carmen takes the hard way over the wall, and she doesn't take it alone. She takes it with a little girl, and it's devastating. But it's devastating because of how realistic it is, and that's part of the horrible beauty of the novel. I have to say horrible because it's horrible that things like that happen, but the way she wrote it is beautiful because it's passionate, and it tugs at your heartstrings, and it's just so meticulously thought out and structured, and it really is captivating. Now, I was unable to give this book 5 stars because there were parts of it, admittedly, that did drag. I felt like Mejia's writing is strong enough that she could have condensed some scenes. She could have made them tighter, because it's not like there is superfluous information in the novel. Everything is pretty essential for plot progression and character development and enriching the character dynamics. But cleaner sentences could have been used and utilized to make the pacing more fluid, because for about half the novel, the pacing's kind of a little choppy. But the last half of the novel, it's bam, 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 bam. It's moving forward. You just got to get past that halfway point. But the fact that it's a little choppy for the first half, it can deter some readers, because you're just like, okay, come on, let's get going here. So, but that's my personal opinion. People are probably going to disagree with me, which is fine. That's what this is all about, creating a discussion. But overall, I do think it was an excellent sequel. I thought it was very smart on Mejia's part to take the direction of the story completely different and follow Carmen's point of view. We get to learn more about Carmen. We get to learn about her history, her perspective, her passions, her love, how deeply she loves. And I think that is what makes the novel so good. Taking this chance to follow Carmen's perspective and to just sort of forget about Danny, who everyone, kind of, you either loved her or you hated her. You came to understand her and relate to her, and I thought that was very cool. So overall, again, a 4-star novel. Highly recommend it. And I think it was a great sequel.